The name's Karn. I bet you didn't know I was from England.
Man, you guys call yourselves fans of Karn. You didn't even know he was from England, dude. This guy has had several cards. He was a planeswalker for a while. He's walking around all the planes. He's touching people with his little silver fingers, dude, like a little creep. And now he's back to being a creature. That's the way it goes sometimes. Sometimes you're on top of the world, you're walking the plains, and the next minute you're down here with the rest of us plebeians, dude. Karn is one of the most iconic, best-known characters in Magic. So does this new card live up to the name? Well, that's what we're going to find out today, dude. Prior to defeating Elish Norn and just lifting up her skull like Simba and the Lion King, Karn uttered his most piercing quote,
"In the name of Urza, liketh and subscribeth, for thusly shall a comment be inscribed below."
Alright, man, you got Karn Legacy Reforged. 5 generic mana for a legendary artifact creature. It's a golem, star. Karn Legacy Reforged power and toughness are each equal to the greatest mana value among artifacts you control. At the beginning of your upkeep, add colorless for each artifact you control. This mana can't be spent to cast non-artifact spells. Until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. Very interesting. Reminds me a little of the old Blink Moth Urn. I used to have that in the Saheeli the Gifted deck, and it puts in work in certain artifact decks. Alright, so what do we got here? Karn has no evasion and can thusly be chomped by a 1/1, rendering him useless as an attacker unless you give him some kind of evasion or trample. The mana you add at the beginning of your upkeep lasts until end of turn. It's also restricted in a fairly unique way. It just tells you what you can't spend it on, but there are other things you can use that mana for. It doesn't say you can't spend it on activated abilities, dude. So just looking at Karn, there's a few ways to build it. First off, you can activate equip abilities with the mana that he gives you. He starts out as a 5/5, which is not bad stats. You can also use his free mana to cast big artifact spells or some combination of the two to blast off into combo. Now, I don't think Karn is a great generic colorless commander for casting Eldrazi Titans and stuff like that because of that restricted mana. You can't use it to cast non-artifact spells, and these guys are non-artifacts. Now, equipment decks can be really rad and really fun. You can use that extra mana to really beef up a creature with a paid-for equip ability. It doesn't have to be Karn. You can grab Armory Automaton or Etch Champion as your combat threat. I love the Etch Champion. 3 generic mana for a little creature soldier. It's a 2/2 with Metalcraft. Has protection from all colors as long as you control 3 or more artifacts. And we got the old Traxos out there. Dude, Traxos is the Mike Tyson of the Magic universe. 4 generic mana for a legendary artifact creature construct. It's a 7/7 with Trample. This guy, you can get really big with artifacts and equipment, and you know what? You're going to untap him because all of our artifacts are historic. I mean, listen, you can get any of these creatures really huge with equipment like Nettle Cyst, Golem Skin Gauntlets, Thran Power Suit, and there are a million other little equipment you can pack in to beef up strong artifact creatures and or Karn. Seems like a fun deck to build on a budget. And you can add in some high mana value creatures, and they feed into Karn's first ability. Imagine getting a Blightsteel out there and then having a 12/12 Karn to slap into your other opponent too. Getting to 12 mana is doable if you're out there slapping down little artifacts and equipments. More likely though, 8 mana or so. 8 mana is probably your sweet spot, 6, 7, 8 mana. You got Cityscape Leveler out there. This is an awesome creature. 8 generic mana for an artifact. It's a construct, 8/8 with Trample. Whenever you cast this spell, whenever it attacks, destroy up to 1 target non-land permanent. Its controller creates a tap Power Stone token, has Unearth for 8. This thing got up to be about $12 really quick, man. I managed to snag a few copies early for relatively cheap, about $5 or so right after release, but I looked at this thing and I knew it was going to be a staple somewhere. How's about the old Scavenge Brawler? 6 generic mana for an artifact creature construct with Flying, Vigilance, Trample, and Lifelink. It's a 4/4. You have 5 and exile it from your graveyard. Choose target creature. Put 4 +1/+1 counters on it, a flying counter, vigilance counter, trample counter, and a lifelink counter on that creature. Activate only as a sorcery. This guy is a bit more affordable at about 48 cents or so. Still a sweet card to suit up with equipment and send in for the clangin' and the bangin'. Now if you want to get real spicy, you can go for combo, dude. There are literally hundreds of combos in colorless. I find it better to slot in 1 or 2 key combos, hopefully those that synergize well with our commander so we won't be sad if we draw them without the rest of the combo. There are quite a few colorless tutors we can activate with all that colorless mana Karn is pumping out. You got the old Kuldoth the Forge Master. 5 generic mana for an artifact creature. It's a construct, 3/5. Tap it, sacrifice 3 artifacts, search your library for an artifact card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. This guy can get whatever we need straight to the battlefield. Or how about the old Planar Bridge? 6 generic mana for a legendary artifact. It has 8 and tap. Search your library for a permanent card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Very expensive, but tutors straight to the field and looks cool to boot. I'm gonna put a nice portal graphic right here just for you guys. Ah, that's a nice. Then you have the old Moon Silver Key, 2 generic mana for an artifact, has 1 untap, sacrifice it, search your library for an artifact card with a mana ability or a basic land card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle. This is a great card that's underutilized. You can go get Ashnod's Altar or Basalt Monolith, which are key in a ton of combos. And if you want to get super fancy, you can stick in Doubling Cube, which got a recent Secret Lair reprint where it's some kind of Transformers thing. Anyway, I like the old Mark Teeden art. But this is 2 generic mana for an artifact, 3 and tap, double the amount of each type of unspent mana you have. If you ask me, the old art is where it's at. Guy's a dang genius. But as long as we have 4 more artifacts, including Karn and Doubling Cube, we're coming out mana positive. Alright, let's talk about the drawbacks with colorless commanders. The draw options are very expensive. You basically need any card that says draw a card on it, that's even remotely playable. Secondly, you don't have interaction that's probably needed to compete in some spicier pods. Your options include stuff like Scour from Existence, Meteor Golem, and Duplicate. Now, Steel Hellkite is great in certain situations, and Karn's mana can be spent for his activated ability, so don't forget about that. However, all this stuff is happening at sorcery speed. You're being very reactive to what's already on the board. Other than that, there are only 15 instants and sorceries that are playable with a colorless commander in the command zone. Let me just spoil it for you. They're not very good. And as far as enchantments go, it's basically Eldrazi Conscription or bust. And listen, man, that's a great card, but Karn's mana can't be used to cast it, so I don't know why I would even stick it in this deck anyway. Alright, so knowing all that, I think cheap equipment combined with Karn's ability to generate massive mana to put out big, hopefully indestructible creatures is an interesting way to go. Honestly though, you can do that in any color with better options for draw and interaction. Imagine if you could use blue. Kind of begs the question, is a 5 mana creature with no evasion that does basically nothing until your next turn worth it to build around? If you really wanted to build an artifact combo deck, black, blue, and red have fantastic tutors for artifacts, or in black's case, just cards. It's kind of the problem with this whole micro set in general. The cards initially looked pretty cool, you know what I mean? You have a new Karn, you got some planeswalkers who get creature cards. Alright, that's sweet. I like Karn, and the ability to put him in the command zone is a welcome opportunity. But Karn, like most of the cards in this set, are kind of derivative of other cards and are safe designs that don't inspire me to do anything that I haven't done before. Karn Legacy Reforged is a bit disappointing. And if you really want to build colorless, the ability to utilize Eldrazi Titans would be better realized with a commander that doesn't produce restricted mana. You honestly could just run one of those as the commander, though it's a big threat that'll probably get countered anyway, but that's the fun of the whole thing. Honestly, this iteration of Karn makes me think of better artifact commanders that I've used in the past, and would build again. Producing infinite mana is easier in blue or red, and you have a payoff right on your commander if you build the old Memnarch. This guy, 7 generic mana for a legendary artifact creature, it's a wizard, it's a 4/5. Has 1 blue, target permanent becomes an artifact in addition to its other types, and 3 in a blue, gain control of target artifact. This guy is a big old big brain Elon Musk type character and will probably generate as much salt on the internet. You can just steal all permanents, dude, if you're generating infinite mana. Use cards like Fabricate, War of Invention, Reshape to get your combo online, and the newly reprinted Training Grounds to reduce the cost of your commander's activated abilities. Or in mono red, you have one of my favorite older commanders. You got Kurkesh Onaki Ancient, 2 red for a legendary creature, Ogre Spirit, it's a 4/3. Whenever you activate an ability of an artifact, if it isn't a mana ability, you may pay red. If you do copy that ability, you may choose new targets for the copy. This guy's a 3-card combo with Voltaic Key, Gilded Lotus. You can get infinite mana and infinite untaps of your artifacts. You can make really big fireballs with the aforementioned Basalt Monolith, which can combo with Gemstone Array and Kurkesh. There are other ridiculous combos. I'll link the deck and the video in the description. There are tons of tutors you can use to get what you need. It's a fun little Rube Goldberg engine, very satisfying to play. So is it worth it to build the new Karn or even stick him in the 99 of an artifact deck? I don't think so, dude. Not for this old man. Too many hoops to jump through, and you only come out mana positive if you have 5 or more artifacts and you can untap with them. If one of your buddies is popping off at that point in the game, you don't have the interaction you really need to stop them from winning in colorless anyway. I'm disappointed in this iteration of Karn. It seemed like they phoned in the design or toned it down to make something more fair, which is no fun for me. I want no fair. Plus, it's pre-selling at an absurd price. Honestly, it isn't very good. But hey, that's just my opinion. A game opinion. but I think there is a deck there. Cheap equipment with some bigger, more impactful creatures might make a decent colorless, kind of casual deck. Colorless utility ramp and lands can be fun to build around as well. Anyways, listen, stay safe out there. If you really want to build Karn, dude, just do it in the safe way. Don't throw yourself in front of a car to build Karn. Don't let the negative Nancys out there get you down, dude. We're all gonna be alright. Snicky G from Better Commander signing off.